Hello, I don't hear anything.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was muted.
Okay, I'm hearing now. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Krishna. I was just speaking earlier, and maybe you didn't hear me, but I said we'll have Bhagavad Gita class every Wednesday during the month of November. And speakers can volunteer to speak. And when there is nobody volunteering, I will teach Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, you're welcome.
All glories to Vidura Prabhu.
And if you're welcome to volunteer or anyone else. And then Vidura Prabhu volunteered to give class this evening. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, when I wasn't hearing anything, when you were speaking either, Malini, I assumed that it was only me, but then I noticed that I was the only one on Zoom, and then I thought, oh, I should say something. I should check. Because I assumed, there's other people on Zoom, they're hearing, but no, it was, yeah, okay. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Devin, for letting us know that our feed wasn't going through. So we're going to be reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, 1972 edition, of course. And we will read from chapter 2. Text 7. Chapter 2, text 7. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yanandana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Darati Svaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shnivari Pashtatya Reshatari. So chapter 2, text 7 with the original Sanskrit text, English transliteration, synonyms, translation, and elaborate purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Jai.
Karpanya doshopahata svabhavaha doshopahata svabhavaha prachami tvam dharma samudachetaha prachami tvam dharma samudachetaha yashrayasyan nishchitam bruhitan me nishchitam bruhitan me Shishyasteham sharimam tvam prapanam
Shishyasteham sarimam tvam papanam.
Does anyone want to repeat it, or do you usually do that?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. Karpanya dosha pahata svabhavaha.
Karpanya
Dosha pahata svabhavaha. Prachami tvam dharma samudachetaha.
Vachami tvam
Samudachetaha. Yashrayasyan nishchitam bruhitan me. Yashrayasyan nishchitam bruhitan me. Shishyasteham sharimam tvam prapanam.
Shishyasteham sarimam tvam
Prapanam. Karpanya doshopahata svabhavaha. Karpanya doshopahata svabhavaha. Pritchami tvam dharma samudachitaha.
Pritchami
Tvam dharma samudachitaha. Yashreyasyanishchitam bruhitan me. Yashreyasyanishchitam bruhitan me. Shishyasteham sharimam tvam prapanam.
Shishyaseham sharimam tvam
Prapanam.
Yamapanya dosha pahata swabhava
Arpanya dosha pahata svabhavaha.
Pritchami tvam dharma samudachittam
Pritchami tvam dharma samudachitaha.
Yashreyasya nishchitam bhuvitam me
Yashreyasyanishchitam bruhitan me.
Shishyaseham sharimam tvam papanam
Shishyasteham sharimam tvam prapanam. Synonyms: Karpanya,
Karapanya
miserly;
Miserly
dosha,
Dosha
weakness;
Weakness
upahata,
Upahata
being inflicted by;
Being afflicted by
svabhavaha,
Swabhava
characteristics;
Characteristics
pritchami,
Pritchami
I am asking;
I am asking
tvam,
Bhavam
unto you;
unto you
dharma,
Dharma
religion;
Religion
samudha,
Samudra
bewildered;
Bewildered
chetaha,
Cheta
in heart;
in heart
yat,
Yat
what;
What
shreya,
Praya
all good;
All good
syat,
Syat
maybe;
Maybe
nishchitam,
Nishchitam
confidently;
Confidently
bruhi,
Bruhi
tell;
Tell
tat,
Tarat
that;
That
me,
May
unto me;
Be
shishya,
Shishya
disciple;
Disciple
te,
Te
your;
Your
aham,
Aham
I am;
Ayam
shadhi,
Shadi
just instruct;
Just instruct
mam,
Mam
me;
Me
me, sorry,
Swam
mam, me, tvam,
Swam
unto you;
Unto you
prapanam,
Rapanam
surrendered.
Surrender
For those who just tuned in, we're reading from chapter 2, text 7 of the Bhagavad Gita. Translation: Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step, there is perplexity, and therefore, it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world's situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not, therefore, remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Who is the man in material perplexities? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. In the Garga Upanishad, the perplexed man is described as follows. Yova etad aksharam garya vidit tasmal lokat praiti sakripana. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human, and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs, without understanding the science of self-realization. This human form of life is a most valuable asset for the living entity who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. On the other hand, there is the Brahmana, or he who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. The Kripanas, or miserly persons, waste their time in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc. In the material conception of life, one is often attached to family, namely wife, children, and other members, on the basis of skin disease. The Kripana thinks that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the Kripana thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can be found even in the lower animals who take care of children also. Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the causes of his perplexities. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still, on account of miserly weakness, he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to make a definite solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. Talks between the master and the disciple are serious. And now Arjuna wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjuna understands the Bhagavad Gita is stated in the Gita itself. And yet, foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna, quote unquote. There is no difference between Krishna's within and without. And one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand Bhagavad Gita. Jai Prabhupada. So Arjuna, Sriman Arjuna, was very perplexed in the beginning of this discussion in the Bhagavad Gita with Lord Krishna. He was feeling very confused and bewildered and overcome by lamentation. And he was expressing his doubts before Krishna. He didn't know what the proper course of action was. He was feeling sad over having to fight with his dear family members, the Kurus. This was a massive world war that was taking place, the Battle of Kurukshetra, where all the kings of the world assembled and all the dynasties of the world assembled by the will of Krishna, because Krishna wanted to lessen the burden of the world, of the evil burden, because the kings had become deviated from the proper path, and therefore they became a burden to the world. And similarly, as today's world governments engage in acts against God or acts for their own sense gratification, and as the governments engage in horrible things like cow killing and so many sinful activities, they become a burden to the world, just like they were becoming a burden to the world during Kurukshetra. And Krishna eventually has to step in, and this is why he appears, to annihilate the miscreants and protect his devotees. And this is what Krishna did in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He appeared for that reason, because the devotees, as soon as there's an increase in miscreants and the rascals in the world, thank you. Then the devotees are also persecuted, or the saintly persons and the saintly scriptures are neglected. And so Krishna comes to protect the scriptures, to protect the devotees, to uphold the truth, uphold Dharma. Otherwise, Dharma is lost. And this is why Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, not just to anyone, but to Arjuna. Because Arjuna was qualified, he was a pure devotee, and he was able to receive the message of the Gita. And of course, everybody is supposed to be able to take advantage of this message from Krishna. And this is Krishna protecting his devotees, withholding Dharma. That's why Krishna brought his chariot symbolically to the middle of both armies. Srila Prabhupada remarks that meant that this message of the Gita is not simply meant for one side, but it's actually meant for both sides to hear. And so both sides were actually hearing the Krishna speak this song of Bhagavad Gita, and both sides were benefiting. And of course, just by being present on the field with Krishna, they're benefiting. Just by getting killed in the presence of Krishna, they attain liberation. So Arjuna was very perplexed because he was overcome with grief. And of course, this is for our own lesson. Arjuna was setting an example. Arjuna is a pure devotee of Krishna, and he's the eternally liberated pure devotee. He's a Nitya Siddha. And but sometimes the pure devotee he assumes a position that apparently seems to be, fallen or less advanced than he is, but actually is simply for our example, simply for our instruction. It's a pastime. And so if Arjuna wasn't there assuming that role, then there would be no one to hear the message of the Gita. So this is Arjuna's mercy upon us and Krishna's mercy upon us. And Krishna appears with his devotees to establish these truths, just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared with all his confidential associates, with his transcendental brother Nityananda, but all his other associates appeared, and all the demigods appeared to help him fulfill his mission. And so Arjuna was presenting himself as he was perplexed. And because we could practically understand, if we are asked to kill our relatives, imagine how distressed we would be. We wouldn't be able to do it. If you have, like Arjuna had so many family members, more than we could imagine, so many loved ones, and people who raised him, and very affectionately, and who trained him in the arts, and so of course he was very bewildered, and that's why his knees were shaking, and he told Krishna, I shall not fight, I can't fight. And he was exchanging these words with Krishna before this moment, before this verse. This is a very pivotal verse, because this marks the point when Arjuna realized that, my conversation with you, Krishna, is friend to friend right now, and I'm expressing my doubts to you, and but really I don't know what to do, and expressing my doubts to you is not solving my perplexity. So Arjuna took the position finally as a disciple. He simply surrendered to Krishna right here, and he said, now I'm your disciple. He's saying, I'm confused about my duty and I've lost all composure because of weakness. And in this condition, I'm asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and I still surrender unto you. Please instruct me. So this is the position that everyone is expected to take at some point in their life, which we have, where we are asking Srila Prabhupada to instruct us, because we know that we are perplexed. We were once confused to some degree or another, and due to that confusion, but due to a sincere desire to solve our perplexities, we approach the truth. We approach Srila Prabhupada, and Krishna guided us to Srila Prabhupada for that reason. So Arjuna is showing us the mentality of a disciple who wants to solve the perplexities of life. Otherwise, they will not be solved. You can go on speculating and talking with however many people on equal level as you want, but your perplexities of life are not going to be solved unless you submit yourself to a bona fide spiritual master. And Krishna says later in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, just try to learn the truth by approaching your spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. And the self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So this is the same thing where Arjuna is approaching Krishna. And just as we're expected to approach self-realized soul as well, who is acting on behalf of Krishna. And so Prabhupada remarks in this purport how he mentions miserliness. So how is Arjuna a miser? A miser is someone who, like if someone has a lot of money, for example, I guess that's an easy example. They don't utilize it properly. They just maybe hoard it and save it, or they use it for just sense gratification for their own need, for their own desires. Whereas when there's so many other great and useful things that it could be used for, if you just squander it for yourself and you don't use it really for Krishna, then that's considered miserly. Or just a practical example, if someone has, a family and their family's in need, but they don't use that money to help their family, then they're miserly. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we all might know someone in our family who might be a miser. We've come across a miser or something, and it's not, but anyway, so similarly, who is a miser is any human being who has the asset, instead it's not money, but it's the brain, the human intelligence. This is a great asset to have in this human body, because in the animal species, we don't have this asset. And so there's no question of an animal being a miser. He's completely bereft and poverty stricken of this great boon. But in the human form of life, we're supposed to use this asset to understand Krishna, to understand God, to solve the perplexities of life finally, to just solve this whole vicious cycle of birth and death. The animals do not understand that they've been transmigrating through 8,400,000 species since time immemorial, and that they're suffering, and that they shouldn't be here, and that they're unhappy. These things don't even occur to them. They might be greatly distressed. They are. You see, any little animal is very paranoid about who's going to attack him, what he's going to eat, but he doesn't have the intelligence to think and to realize his condition, but the human being does. And so imagine how miserly a human being is if he does not utilize that rare human form, that rare intelligence, to solve this perplexity of life. If we go on simply eating, mating, sleeping, and defending, just like the animals do, then we are the biggest misers. And so Arjuna was lamenting based on this miserly weakness, based on identification with the body, which Prabhupada calls skin disease. That's why the first instruction in spiritual life is, we are not this body. And that's the first thing that the human being is supposed to understand, is we are not this body, we are spirit soul. And so what are the activities of the spirit soul? For this knowledge, you have to approach a bona fide spiritual master. You have to take it from the descending process. So there's ascending and descending. Ascending is, ruling it out, this is not, and just kind of a process of elimination, which is really never ending, or it just takes so long that it's just a waste of time. Whereas the shortcut is simply accept God's word, simply accept God's representative's words, and then you could very easily make progress toward the ultimate goal of life. And so as we conditioned souls being in perplexity, we are supposed to learn this knowledge from a bona fide representative of Krishna. And Krishna says it must be a self-realized pure devotee who has seen the truth. So it's not just anybody. You can't just approach anybody. If you have some sickness, you have to approach someone who's authorized. If you can't approach me, I'm not a doctor. You can't approach some random person. You have to find an authorized person who has a license, who has a doctor's office or some established authorization. And then he can give you the prescription, and you follow that prescription, and then you'll make progress. Same thing with anything. If you want to make progress in any field, you have to find an authorized person or an authorized process, at least, to make progress in that field. And so spiritual life should not be any exception. And a lot of people take that for granted. They think, oh, I could make progress any way I want. I could think of God in any way I want. In one sense, it's true because God is everything. But if you really want to solve the perplexities of life and make rapid progress, you have to approach an authorized person. And so, who is the authorized person? It is he who has the knowledge of God. The man who is able to explain to us our dilemma and our problem, and we're supposed to use just logic and common sense to analyze. We use our intelligence to discover the person who is authorized. And so for Srila Prabhupada, of course, he has written so many books. We can see practically, if we study his life, how much he loves God and how dedicated he is, and how he lives his life accordingly. And he is actually authorized by God through this civic succession. And so, and if you're reading these books, anybody could quickly understand, yes, this makes sense. This is an authorized process. And so by submitting to Prabhupada's books, by submitting to a spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada, we are no longer misers. We're taking advantage of this human form, and we're able to practically see that we're able to make progress in spiritual life. Prabhupada says the miserly persons, they waste their time in being overly affectionate for a family, society, and country. They're thinking that this can save them. We all want to seek shelter somewhere. We're all trying to, because in this material world, the nature is that we're very fearful. There's always fear in this world. And so naturally, we want to take shelter of someone, we want to take shelter of something, whatever it is, because that we feel like that could help us, or we temporarily take shelter of family, or then society, or love, or politics, or whatever it is. We're trying to take shelter of it to make us feel less fearful. But Prabhupada is saying here that these are not going to protect you from the perplexities of life. And what is the biggest perplexity of life is that you're going to die. You're gonna die, and then nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to die, but maybe some people are in complete denial about that, and they go on their life. I know I'm guilty of that. If I really realized how badly I didn't want to die, or that I'm gonna die, I'd probably be much more strict about Krishna consciousness, because death is a very fearful situation, and it's a very risky situation, because really we're completely at the mercy of material nature. Krishna says, whatever state of being when he remembers when he quits this body, that state he will attain without fail, without fail. So if you're, and that just takes a second. The mind is so wavering. Imagine when you're at the time of death, at the very moment your soul leaves your body, whatever state, whatever thing your mind is set on, that's where your soul goes, because that's how powerful the mind is. It can take, if you have control of the mind, you can go anywhere. A perfect yogi can transfer himself to any planet he wants because he has control of his mind. So that should be a big concern to the sane man. And that's the key word. To someone who is sane, this is a concern. To those who are not sane, to those who are insane, this is not a concern at all. They think, oh, this is nonsense. You know, what do you mean? when I die, like, death is not a problem. Death is normal. Everyone dies, and that's it. Or we take birth. They don't even believe in birth again, maybe, hardly. And so that's a big perplexity, is you're dying and you don't know where you're going. You're going somewhere, though, that's out of your control. It could be an animal form, it could be another human form if you're lucky. But do we want to take another human form even? No, because we see how much suffering we undergo in this life, you know? And so the idea is to get out of this material world, to get out of this situation in this life. That should be the goal, to finally make a solution to this. And that's why, by practicing Krishna consciousness, Krishna actually promises, he says, that there's no loss or diminution in this process. So by serving Krishna, there's no loss or diminution. Unlike any other activity that you perform, there's always, you have to, whatever you accomplish in this life, it's finished at the time of death. Or maybe you perform some pious activities and you're able to enjoy them in your next life in the heavenly planets. But as soon as those activities are exhausted, you come crashing right back down to this earthly planet. So there's no real preservation of whatever activities you accomplish, so-called accomplish in this life. So in that sense, they're all useless. The only thing that is lasting is Krishna consciousness, is devotional service to Krishna. And why? It's because Krishna says, I remember always the service, even a little bit of service that my devotee renders unto me. I always remember that service. And at the time of death, Krishna, he will remember what we've done for him. He'll preserve what we have, and he carries what we lack. He says, to them, I preserve what they have, and I carry what they lack. So we may do make a little progress in this life, and Krishna preserves that. That's Krishna's mercy. So by reading one text of the Bhagavad Gita and making a little progress, we're guaranteed a human birth in our next life. That's the power of Krishna consciousness. Or just by anybody hearing Harinam Sankirtan, or getting a book, or eating some prasadam, they're actually guaranteed a human birth in their next life. Because or candies. Yesterday, Malini Mantadu was passing out thousands of candies to the Halloween trick-or-treaters. And so all those little trick-or-treaters don't ever have to trick-or-treat again in another life. Well, they might, but at least they'll get to trick-or-treat again in a human form. Thanks to Malini. So this is the strength of devotional service, is you just do a little bit of it and you're guaranteed at least another human form, where you may take birth in a pious family, Krishna says, or a family of brahmanas and learned brahmanas, because those are chances to continue your devotional service. If you're born in a rich family or an aristocratic, wealthy family, it's actually a good chance to advance in spiritual life, because you don't have to worry about the economic problem. You have everything taken care of. You can focus on the higher things of life. if you're intelligent, if you're fortunate still. So it's not a guarantee. Just because you're born in an aristocratic family or a family of wealthy merchants, you're not guaranteed, even in that human form, to make much more progress in that life in devotional service. Or even if you're born in a family of brahmanas, you're not guaranteed to to go back to God in that life necessarily, but Krishna gives you the opportunity at least. So he's giving us these opportunities. But that's why we should take it seriously in this life, because it's not that it may not be easier in the next life. We're still in the material world, and we're going to have another set of challenges. We don't see any human being without challenges, without disease, without afflictions and misery. Everybody, whether you're rich or poor. And so it's not that we want to take another chance. We want to solve our problems in this life. And at the time of death, it's very possible that Krishna, he says, I carry what they lack. So at the time of death in this life, if we sincerely execute devotional service and our whole life, then Krishna is going to carry what we lack. That could be a lot. That could be 90% or 99%. But Krishna, he can help us by remembering him. And so that should be our prayer is, Krishna, please see. There's a prayer in the Ishopanishad. It might be mantra 16, where the prayer is, please remember all that I've done for you. And I forgot the whole thing, but it's asking Krishna to please, burn my karma, burn all my sinful activities and all my activities that I've performed, since you are the ultimate beneficiary and you are the ultimate enjoyer of anything. Please remember, therefore, all that I've done for you, and help me remember you at the time of death. And so that's the prayer, and it's very possible, and it's actually guaranteed. If you sincerely render service to Krishna in this life, Krishna could basically control your mind, help you control your mind, and help you think of him at the time of death. Otherwise, it's not possible. Without Krishna's mercy, you cannot think of him at the time of death, because you're going to Krishna. So Krishna is fully in control of who comes to him, of who comes to his abode. And so if he's pleased with you and if he sees you're sincere, he can drag you back to God. And that is done through the bona fide spiritual master, of course. It's not that we're directly approaching Krishna. We're executing Krishna consciousness under the instructions of the bona fide acharya. And that's a very important point in itself, because if it has, this concept of being bona fide, because if you're not authorized, if you're not bona fide, then your instructions will not act. Your instructions will not take effect. If you go to a doctor and, well, you're thinking he's a doctor, but he's some phony, and he's not really a doctor, and he gives you some prescription, then that might kill you, or it's not going to lead you to help if he doesn't know what he's doing. And so that's why it's important to recognize who is authorized, who is actually qualified, who actually has pure love of God. And we should look for that and follow his instructions. And thankfully, Srila Prabhupada, he's so merciful that he left his instructions in written form for the whole world to take advantage of. So actually, just as Arjuna was so fortunate to see Krishna face to face, one may be concerned today, okay, Arjuna had a nice opportunity to see Krishna face to face, but what about me? I don't have the opportunity to see Krishna. I don't even know where to go to see a nice spiritual master. I don't know where to go. Where do I start? Like, I need someone, Well, yes, association is very much needed, and we should all associate with devotees who are also interested in this path. But Prabhupada came, and he didn't come for 10 or 12 years just to give a few people his mercy and then leave, and then nobody else in the world gets his mercy. No, he's not so insignificant. He's very significant, and he's the acharya for the whole world. And so he comes for a little bit of time just to write these books. He wrote so many books for the whole world's benefit. It's not just for one generation of people. It's for thousands of generations to come. It's for the whole golden age, for the next 10,000 years of Lord Chaitanya's movement. And so anybody can take advantage, anybody can approach a bona fide spiritual master in this age of Kali Yuga by taking the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, by reading his books and reading them with a sincere service attitude and being submissive, just like Arjuna in this verse. This is the attitude to take when reading Prabhupada's books is I'm confused, I'm weak, I don't know what to do, I'm lost, and now I'm your disciple, please instruct me. So if we don't read Prabhupada's books with that mentality, we're not going to get very far. We have to accept a spiritual master means to submit to his instructions, is to be submissive and to not argue anymore. Because, Arjuna was kind of like in an argumentative state of mind. And so you're not gonna get anywhere. You have to accept the instructions and with faith and love and the faith that, okay, this person knows how to cure me. I don't know how to cure myself. I'm tied, I'm conditioned, I'm struggling in the waves of material nature, in the ocean of birth and death. I'm simply struggling. And there's no way for me to get out. The only way out is to take hold of the rope of the pure devotee's instructions. And so this Bhagavad Gita is that rope, and we have to take it very seriously. And when we do that, then our perplexities of life will be solved, and we will be able to go back to Godhead in this life. And we should be encouraged by that. And this is Arjuna's attitude that he's showing us in this verse. And so I don't know how long I've been speaking, but maybe 7:13. But maybe we could have some questions. If not, I could go on further. Does anyone have any questions so far, or any comments that they would like to make in regards to this verse 2:7?
You want to read the verse again?
Yes. The translation?
Yeah.
Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me.
Thank you for choosing this verse. Thank you. Thank you for choosing this verse. We do appreciate. And I appreciate a few points you made that touched me. One was about death, and I'm sure you're in contact with death a lot in your job. I imagine, like working in a nursing home.
Yes.
That there is people dying all the time.
Yes.
And like the urgency of death, because we cannot take it for granted, or like casual. Have a casual relationship with death.
Right.
And then if we were really to be serious about it, like committed and serious, then our life will look very different. Yeah, I appreciated that point. And also like the point you made about everyone has problem, and that's Arjuna's situation for our benefits is like everybody's situation. Like, we're all suffering. We are suffering, and we need to understand we are suffering, and that's it. And so it's like so connected. Really understand, because as long as we are trying to solve the suffering, we are just going to suffer more. Yes. And so those 2 points I appreciated that you made. And then the bringing forth that the doctor, first I need to understand I'm deceased, because some people, they don't even understand that they have a disease. and that disease can lead them to be done with
Mhm.
everything. But then first I need to feel like, okay, I'm diseased, and now who is going to cure my disease? And I really appreciate the fact that, yeah, there is a doctor that's available for all of us that came here, that came here to the West for 10 years and is here for any person who wants to take shelter of him for the next 10,000 years.
Yes.
That's 3 points that really touched me in your class.
Thank you. Yes. I don't know. Thank you, Malini Mataji, for sharing that. Does anyone have any other questions? Maybe anyone who's viewing right now or like to give any input or feeling inspired to share anything with us, we'd love to hear from you.
I'll share something.
Okay, Valerie Mataji would like to share something. Thank you.
Feeling really inspired to practice Krishna consciousness based off of your talk. Like you talking about death also really touched me too. And it's like just so important to prepare our consciousness for death. And I feel like that what I also got from this verse and from your talk was surrender. And I feel like I am in a process of surrendering to Krishna and to Srila Prabhupada, and it's so scary, and it requires so much trust and courage to just like let go and to not attach to all of the things that give me false security. And so I feel like this for me is a reminder to just like keep surrendering, and anytime that I'm attaching or getting entangled in the knots, just pray and chant and practice kirtan like that. Because sometimes I'm like, hey, how do I surrender? What does that mean to surrender? And it's like, I remind myself, I know that answer actually, and there's probably some of that answer that I don't know, but what I do know is I could chant and I can sing and I can read. So I'm feeling inspired.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Colin.
Yeah,
We have a process now.
what do you mean?
Like, this is a process to surrender. I see it. Is there a tool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate Valerie's points of like letting go that I can still that's so much. Okay, problem are going to come, misery are there, threefold misery, fivefold misery, tenfold misery, whatever.
Yeah.
And then when the problem comes, not surrendering means I can solve it. There's a solution.
Right.
And I'm going to find it because I am a dependent and I know how to do everything.
True.
And then surrender means, no, I'm not a dependent, I'm really 100% depending on Lord. And then I can talk to him and pray and sing and practice Krishna consciousness and hopefully it will go away.
Yes.
And if it doesn't go away, it's okay. I'm just riding the wave.
Yeah, it's so difficult. I mean, I realize like philosophically it's Srila Prabhupada makes it quite simple to understand how we're not this body and we're spirit souls and so that's nice, and it's I realize for me that it's very theoretical for me still because of just the fear that I still have, like if I get sick or just distress for anything that comes up, I'm so affected by it. I'm still I want to react, and I'm still so affected and distressed by all the dualities of this world. So it's like, and then at times like that, which are always every day for me, sometimes I wonder, like, how much have I really understood of the Bhagavad Gita? Like, because it's just like it's still like theory, and so a big thing is it's one thing to have that knowledge, but like to really practically come to that stage, to that level of that knowledge, of the practical application in your life, and that really just requires continuing to follow the process, and chanting Hare Krishna. That's the cleansing process, and so yeah, one day I hope to, and well, you eventually, like when I like if I have suffered a loss, or I am having some distress, it does help to read the Gita and to remember this perspective, because it is the truth, of course, and it is the highest reality. And so that also brings relief. And we could all probably experience that, or we've all experienced that, where you might be suffering some distress, mental or otherwise, and then you read the Bhagavad Gita or you read anywhere from Prabhupada's books, and you feel that that burden kind of lifted a little, because it's really all transcendental subject matter.
Yeah.
And so
Lift it out.
lift it out. Yeah. Right. And then when we stop reading, we're like, oh, yeah. So
Out of the water.
out of the right. Then you come back. Yeah. So but yeah, it helps to we have to keep reminding ourselves. I have to keep reminding myself, yeah, I'm not this body. And so really, I'm still like on chapter 2 of the Gita my whole life. Like, I don't want to speak of the other chapters. I'm struggling with verse 1 of 2 as you are not this body. And I feel like Krishna says here, he says to Arjuna, as soon as Arjuna surrendered to him like this, Krishna was talking friendly with him before, and they were very good friends before, in the whole Mahabharata, you could see how Krishna was dealing with them so friendly. And so Krishna says next, he says, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. And so, right. And so Krishna wasted no time. And the spiritual master also, this is his position. And he has the authority to chastise the whole world. And this is what Prabhupada did. He's the Acharya. And so he can chastise the whole world because this is his mercy, though. So he's saying the whole world is wrong right now. The whole world is upside down. This is how to fix it. This is the Acharya's duty, just like this is Krishna's duty. When Arjuna surrendered to him, Krishna immediately said, okay, you're a fool. You're speaking all these words, and Arjuna was posing all these different philosophies, like, oh, it is better, all these moral codes, like what happiness will be obtained from kingdom and land if it's my own blood that I'm killing. It's better that I renounce and take to renounce life and go to the forest. And Arjuna was using all these moral principles to back his arguments, but it wasn't solving it for him. He was still perplexed. And so our Krishna was like, okay, well, you're sounding really smart, but you're really a fool. and because he's a fool, why? Because all of this was based on the body. It was based on the bodily platform still. And so Krishna is saying, only a fool thinks that he is his body, and therefore he starts to relate and connect everything based on his body. Whereas if we remember that we're actually spirit soul, and our soul really has nothing to do with all these bodily engagements, with all these relations, because we're devotees, and that's special, that's transcendental. But ordinarily speaking, all our family, friends, or in general, they're bodily relations, and so naturally we lament. So when they die, we think, oh no, my mother, my body's mother, or my father, or my daughter, or cousin, or whoever. And so the bodily identification is the cause of all these miseries, of all these lamentations. And that's what Arjuna was facing. And that's why that's the first instruction for spiritual life is, you're not this body, you're a spirit soul. And then that solves a lot of perplexities. I imagine that, yeah, I mean, well, not imagine, I know that it's a big relief to read this, you know?
Yes.
Like whenever I read the Gita and I read these truths, it's always a relief to me because really I forget day in and day out. You go about your life and you know the Gita in the back of your head, but you forget. I forget, and so that's why Prabhupada wanted us to read every day, because it's a constant. You have to constantly remind yourself, you're not this body, you're not this body, you're not this body, and go get out of this. You're suffering. We constantly, we don't want to suffer, and so we try to enjoy, and we try to, but this material world is really a place of suffering. And one Acharya makes the example that the little happiness derived from this material world is compared to a drop of water in the desert. We're just trying to quench our thirst, and we find a drop of water and we think, oh, that's happiness, but really we're just in the desert, and there's no happiness anywhere really. It's just, and when we find a little happiness, it's just a little bit of mitigation of the suffering. And so it sounds very pessimistic, but actually it's just the reality of the world. But Krishna consciousness at the same time, we should engage in Krishna consciousness. Krishna says is joyfully performed. We should engage in it joyfully, because why not? We found the path, we found the process. And so just like Arjuna became happy after he surrendered to Krishna, so we should also become happy, knowing that we're following the process. And what's not to be happy about is prasadam. That's a process. Actually, devotional service is simply eating sumptuous prasadam, associating with all these smiling faces that I see here, and all these wonderful, positive people that I've met. Going on Harinam. And like, what's sad about that process is not like we're going to the forest. We don't have to leave our families. We don't have to do anything. Prabhupada came here to us. Look, he's here. And so he came to us. We hardly have to do anything. Yeah. We can go about our lives. He's just asking for a few things to just kind of dovetail everything towards Krishna. And that's what we're not giving up our core person, like we're still ourselves, but we're just dovetailing and directing it towards Krishna's service somehow. So everybody wants to associate and socialize. So we're not ending socialization. We're socializing. We're going out, we're having programs, we're singing, we're not stopping singing.
Or dancing.
Or dancing. Yeah. Actually, probably devotees dance more than if you're not a devotee. So.
And you don't need to be drunk.
You don't need to be drunk, or it doesn't cost anything, and it's all devotional service. And so that is the sublime process of devotional service. That's where chant and be happy comes from. Well, I guess we could. Do you want to end here? Or is...
We can.
Okay.
We can see.
Yeah, 7:30 on the dot. Well, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you, Devin and Christina, for joining us. That's very nice of you. We appreciate your association here and your presence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.